Right, so we're going to get started. We're just waiting for one more panelist who is having a technical difficulty, but will be here with us very shortly. My name is Elizabeth Aloni, and I want to welcome you all. I'm with Schneps Media. Schneps Media is the largest media company in New York City, and we publish over 70 newspapers, magazines, websites, webinars, podcasts, and events throughout Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Westchester, Long Island, and Philadelphia. We are thrilled to bring you here today a host of experts sponsored by Wallauer, and we're going to talk about how to start a project and transform your home with paint. You know, in today's environment, it looks like we're all going to be at home for some more time. And many of us are still working from home. We have canceled vacation plans. And there are so many projects that a homeowner can tackle. But the number one important thing is to work with experts and learn from experts to be able to do your own DIY projects. And what we have here is the need to know advice with these experts. We're going to be able to hear from Nally, from Dave Hollander, and Louis Katz. And again, I want to thank our sponsor, Wallauer. They're a close to 100-year-old strong family-owned business, which is phenomenal. So I want to get started by having each of our panelists introduce themselves. And I'm going to have Laura, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hi, Elizabeth. It's good to be here. I'm excited to be able to talk to people and give them some of our insight on colors and how to make your home homier. My name is Laura Nally. I am the design manager here at Wallauer. We have 6 design centers here in Westchester, along with 16 paint stores in every nook and cranny of Westchester. So there is someone who can help you real close by to your home.
Wonderful. Thank you, Laura. And Dave Hollander, if you could introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself. You just need to unmute it.
Sorry about that. I said, hi, Elizabeth. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited to be here. I hope everyone is healthy and safe during this crazy time in our American history. My name is Dave Hollander. I'm with Benjamin Moore. I'm an outside sales rep, and I cover Westchester and Rockland County for Benjamin Moore on behalf of Wallauer.
Thank you. And we're going to be joined shortly by Louis Katz, who is a licensed contractor who will be able to answer your questions. He's having a little bit of a technical difficulty, but I'm sure he will get with us just shortly. So in the meantime, what I wanted to get started with, and Laura and Dave, this question is for both of you. How have things changed in the COVID era when it comes to home improvement and making changes and your businesses?
Well, I can go ahead, Dave. You go first.
Sorry. So for me in my job, you know, it's made things a tiny bit more difficult. People are more apprehensive to have, you know, strangers or anybody in their home besides close family and friends. You know, a lot of my job is calling on job sites and contractors, and you know that's become a little more difficult. People are more apprehensive. So, you know, sales is a relationship business, so it's made things a little more difficult. On the positive side, it definitely has prompted people and encouraged people to get out and do more DIY projects. So, you know, you get a lot more traffic, homeowner traffic in the store, coming in, buying paint, you know, buying sundries and really trying to spruce up their home because like you said, Elizabeth, you know, vacations and outside events are few and far between.
Goes to show why we really need your expertise, because we may have a lot of DIY projects we want to do. It doesn't mean we know how to do them.
Yeah. So here's the thing, homeowners, we've all been stuck in the house. Thank God we've been able to get out in this beautiful weather that we've been having. But what it has done is made people who are sitting home and staring at those walls say, gosh, I really need something to make me feel better. And one of the easiest, most economical ways to make yourself feel better is to put a new coat of paint on your walls. So we have had so many people calling and asking for help about colors. And the interesting thing is that people are not looking for plain old gray or beiges anymore. people are looking for happier colors, more serene and relaxing and calm colors that they can envelop themselves in their home, especially when they're trying to work from home. And what I have noticed is a lot of people have been coming in and saying, or calling in, because I'm getting phone calls all the time, but the one thing that's been happening is people have to try and find a place to make a home office in their house. And so they are carving out a walk-in closet, and they're trying to make that into a comfortable, relaxing, happy place for them to sit for 8 hours a day, someplace away from their families to get that work done. And they are looking for happier, more vibrant colors. They need to have happiness in their work environment. And one way to do that is to have a little personality and put some color in there. The other thing that I've noticed a lot is people, you know, are sitting at home and they're looking at that old piece of furniture that they got from grandma, and the next thing you know, they're calling me up and saying, I want to paint that furniture. And they're painting it white, or they're painting it green or blue or even black, and transforming their space by adding a great color on these old antique furniture that has been sitting around their house. And the one way that I've been helping them is that Wallauer has implemented virtual color consultations. So someone can call up, and with either FaceTime or Google Duo, I can go into their home and help them choose the colors that will make their house a home with that safety feature in mind.
Wow, I never even thought about the whole thing. When you think about paint, I never was even thinking about furniture, but just goes to show like how many different things really you can paint to transform your home outside of just walls, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's, I would imagine also being able to be online while getting help may have even made it even better for homeowners, because you can actually see their space.
Well, when someone describes a room, and the way it sounds and the way it looks via video is two different things. So to get into somebody's house and see what they have going on in that room, what lighting and everything is going on in that room, that's the excellent tool to help them make things change and just look awesome.
Wow, that's terrific. Dave, let me ask you a question. Talking about paint, what is the difference between Benjamin Moore paint and local big box stores? I don't know.
It's a great question, and it's really a simple answer, but to me, it's twofold. It's really the thing that separates Benjamin Moore from any other paint manufacturer or big box is two things. Number one is our Gen X coloring technology. And what that allows us to do is we manufacture our own pigments and our own resins. So what does that mean? That means we control the quality of the raw materials that go into every gallon of paint that we put on the market today. When I say pigment essentially is the blue or the yellow or the red that goes into that can of white paint to get that nice, beautiful color that you're looking for in your new home office. And why does that separate us apart from the competition? Because when we're able to control the raw materials, we're able to make sure every gallon of paint is at its best. What does that mean for the consumer? It means better hide. In other words, you'll be able to get to that vibrant red in maybe one or two less coats. More washability, more durability. That means when little Johnny spills the milk on the wall, you're going to be able to clean it without burnishing that red color off. And also for exterior, better UV protection. So you're going to get your house painted a nice dark gray. It's going to stay that dark gray all the longer versus our competition. And then secondly, what I always say, which separates us from the big box, is our independent retail distribution channel. You know, when you go into some other stores, whether it's big box or corporate paint stores, you know, a lot of times you get young guy doesn't have the experience. You know, with the independent channel, you get family-owned businesses like Wallauer that's been doing it for 100 years, blood, sweat, and tears, second, third generation of businesses that like I said, breathe and sweat and bleed paint. So that the knowledge, the customer service, and the sense of community is like none other out in the industry today.
Well, I thank you, Dave. I have more questions for you, but first I have to stop and say, Lewis, you're here.
Hey guys,
Hooray!
sorry, a little
Hooray!
technical difficulties.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you're here. You know, let me just stay on with Dave. And
Hi, Dave. Hi, Laura.
and then I'm going to get to you, and we want to hear all about who you are and what you do. So I'll
Sounds
come
good.
right back to you in a minute.
Okay.
So Dave, you mentioned, first of all, you had me at, you don't have to do more coats right
Yes.
away as a homeowner and someone who has to do it myself. That's enough.
Yeah.
But so you were mentioning though about inside, outside, about different paint finishes. How do you know what to use? You know, what type of paint do you use? Is it different for a kitchen or for a bathroom? And what do I need to look for?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. It's based upon a couple of things. It's based upon the environment and the customer's expectations. So, you know, in other words, if I walk into a customer's home and I'm working with a contractor and we're painting a high traffic kids room, right, that's going to get a lot of beating and balls against the wall, I'm going to go something a little bit more of a higher sheen, a little bit more washable, a little more durable. You know, if the contractor or the painter is, you know, has a wall where it's a lot of imperfections, maybe the you know, the drywall and the touch-ups weren't done very well, you're going to go towards the lower end of the sheen spectrum of maybe a flat or a matte, because that finish is going to hide some of those imperfections. So it's really about the room that we're in and the exposure and the customer's expectations. And, you know, a lot of times when you're dealing, you know, if I go into a home and we're talking about a kitchen or a bathroom, a high humidity area, again, you're going to use an Aura Bath and Spa, which has a lot of mold and mildew resistance, or you're going to use a kitchen and bath, which also has mildew resistance, and it's on the higher sheen level, so it makes it more washable, makes it a little bit more of a harder surface for mildew and moisture to penetrate the paint.
Really important factors to think about. And what about outside? Your home.
Outside is based on the substrate and the customer's expectations. You know, if it's going to be soft woods or if it's going to be, you know, if it's going to be wood, I usually go stain, because stain is going to penetrate, a lot less exposure for peeling, chipping, or cracking. If we're talking about, you know, vinyl siding or aluminum siding, I usually go an acrylic premium quality exterior paint like a Regal Select or even Aura. You know, and then it's really based upon what the customer wants. So they want some homeowners like that the sheen, so they're going to like that shiny look to it. So I'm going to go more of like a soft gloss. Some customers nowadays want that flat finish to hide some of the imperfections in the substrate again. So it's really based upon the customer's expectation and the substrate that we're painting.
You mentioned that about staining and wood, you know, because we were just talking, Laura was mentioning about furniture. Is that the same thing with furniture? Would you recommend more of a stain than a paint because if you're dealing with wood furniture? Or is that a little bit different because it's a different consistency?
It's a different substrate, a different exposure. I mean, normally when you're talking about inside furniture, you want something that's going to give you a real hard, shiny finish. It's going to be durable because, you know, a lot of times furniture, whether it's drawers banging in and out or people running into it, or, you know, I got 2 small kids, so my son is always banging every truck he can get his hands on into everything. So you want some a little bit more, it's going to dry harder, give you a little bit more durability. So I'd more lean on the side of like an Advance or a cabinet coat, something that's going to dry harder and give you a lot more abrasion resistance.
Okay, great. So what are some of so if I'm going to do it myself, what are some of the prep steps that I should think about before painting?
Well, I always recommend getting a lot of drop cloths, because I don't know about you, but I'm a messy painter. So I always put down drop cloths. You know, I always use, you know, blue tape is always a necessity unless you're a professional. And I'm getting there where I can cut that line without tape. But, you know, I got Hawkeyes behind me, my wife telling me, you know, every little mistake that I make. But, you know, drop cloth, tape, you know, that kind of thing. But as far as prep with the actual substrate, you know, it's pretty pretty easy. You know, when you're talking about a homeowner project, clean, dry, and dull. Make sure the substrate is clean of any dirt or grease or any sort of contaminant on the surface. Make sure it's dull. If there's a semi-gloss on the wall, you know, just scuff it up a little bit, dull it down, so you give either the primer or the top coat a chance to bite onto it, and make sure it's dry. So, you know, if it's in a kitchen or a bathroom and, you know, it was getting water and a lot of moisture, make sure the walls and the air in the room is as dry as possible. Otherwise, you could have some failures.
You used a word, I'm sorry, substrate? What is that?
Whether it's drywall or wood. When I say substrate, I guess a fancy word for what you're actually painting. So whether it's a wooden cabinet or you know, drywall in your home, or maybe you're painting wood trim in the rec room. It's just a fancy word for the actual material that you're painting.
I like to learn these fancy words. These are good. Now we can feel more like a professional.
I only got one or two of them, so don't get too excited.
What about, Dave, when I go to the store and, you know, I come to Wallauer and I want to buy paint, how do I know how much paint that I need for a room?
It's all really based upon the square footage, and it can get sometimes very, there's a lot of variables that go into it, but what I usually use is a pretty round number. I usually take about 300 square feet per gallon. Divide that into the square footage. So you got 1,500 square feet, 300 square feet per gallon per coat. So, you know, again, it really depends upon, again, the substrate that you're painting, how you're applying the paint, what color you're using. So there's a lot of variables that go into it. But for just our conversation, it's about 300 to 350 square feet per gallon. That's the round number I use.
I took a note on that. I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Thank you, Dave.
No problem.
Louis, I want to know more about you. So introduce yourselves to our attendees and tell us what is it that you do.
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Louis Katz. I'm a third generation painting and wall covering contractor and GC. We work all over the tri-state area. We're licensed and insured. And my family is, you know, my uncle was, a contractor. My cousin went into it. I apprenticed for 2 years. Then I went to Wallpaper School up in Vermont. At the time, it was the only accredited school in the country, called the U.S. School of Professional Paper Hanging. Stan Washoe was our headmaster there, which led me to a huge amount of other work. From there, we went out and we started our own business after 2.5 years of apprenticing painting. And then I went into the wallpaper and the painting business. And now we are also owning real estate. We run a podcast called The New Coat of Paint, and our painting and wallpapering and construction business. So we do it all. And as far as the furniture goes, everything old is new again. So you have old break fronts and desks or tables that have great patterns, and they're beautiful pieces, but they look older. You know, they look like something that came from your parents' house. So we are doing a lot of high gloss paints on these cabinets and tables to make them very modern. We're using incredible colors like teals and beautiful corals and so on that you go over and make a piece pop. So it takes a plain old Jane piece and makes it a brand new piece for your home without having to go out and buy a new piece. So, because usually they're very high quality, good wood. Sometimes it's ashamed to paint them, but it's something that we do. So there's another interesting way. And with certain pieces, you can wallpaper them as well. We wallpaper tables, we've wallpapered Murphy beds, we've wallpapered cabinets before. So, wallpaper is also another option.
Wow, my mind is blown now.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do.
Not only are there a million colors to choose from, but now you can also think about wallpaper. Those are some great tips. So,
well, there's some great stuff to do with wallpaper in today's world.
Wow, that's exciting. So, obviously being a contractor sounds like it's an art. I mean, it's an art in terms of painting. It's an art in terms of wallpapering. Why should someone hire a contractor?
Well, all right, unless you have all the time in the world and you have nothing to do but be on top of your job, a contractor is the guy that takes all those spare parts and puts them together into a schedule and guides that ship to where it's got to go. So without a contractor, people are just showing up, maybe out of order. People can't get their work done because nothing has been done in order. So a contractor is that coach that guides everybody to where they're going. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is because they're usually insured. If you're hiring a quality contractor, they're insured, which means if someone falls on your property or someone trips on your stairs or on a drop cloth, you're protected because it's your home and you're liable. Now, if someone comes walking onto your property and climbs up to the second floor window because you hired them to clean your windows and that ladder slips and falls, that's your responsibility. A contractor will have insurance. You're now covered, protects you. So a really good reason to have a licensed contractor on your property. Also, we read a lot. I mean, that's what my life is about. I read blogs, I read e-zines, I read magazines, because the technology is changing by the nanosecond. What we did with paint even 3 years ago are not what happens today. Paint is very different. There are paints out there that were go-to products that are no longer viable in the real world. Oil-based paint is disappearing. In California, you can't buy bigger than a quart of oil-based paint. If you buy more than 4 quarts, you have to be licensed. All right, you have to get permits.
Is that environmental?
So,
Is that
yeah, it's all environmental. It's what they call VOCs, volatile organic compounds. All right, and an interesting side story for people who don't know what volatile organic compounds, that's the stuff that when you open a can, that starts to leave the can. An oil-based, water-based, doesn't matter what it is. In your hairsprays, the fluorocarbons that used to come out, those are all VOCs. So when you open that can, it starts to release chemicals into the environment. And back in the day, when Ronald Reagan was president, the guy who was the head of one of the heads of the EPA, John Hoffman, who was a very close friend of mine, sat down and they discussed VOCs and what they were going to do with paints. And the really interesting part of this is that John turned to everybody and said, if we do this across the board, basically we're going to take an art form and make it disappear. Because oil-based painters' paints that do fine art had such a high VOC content that they would have been eradicated from existence in this country. And by one person asking the correct question, artists are still out there painting beautiful pieces of work.
Wow.
So there's lots to think about when it comes to this stuff.
Wow. So in addition, look at all this knowledge people get when they work with you as well.
Well, that's one of the reasons that you hire, you have to talk with your contractor to make sure that he's on top of the new technologies. It's really easy to say, oh, I've been a contractor for 40 years and I know what I'm doing. Well, yeah, 40 years ago you did. What happened in the last 2 or 3 years, and now with COVID, entering and leaving houses and making sure that the environment is clean for your men as well as your clients is a challenging time for us. So
talk a little bit about that, Louis. Let us know how has things changed now that you're as a contractor around these COVID times?
Well, obviously we took 3 months off when the city, everything was closed down. Right now, we have slated a couple of jobs in Manhattan that had been put off. The problems with them and why we're waiting them out right now is only 3 people are allowed on an elevator. You can only go up once in the morning and once down in the afternoon, so we can't check on our employees. So, it's a really difficult time, and obviously you want to be wearing masks, and they take your temperature in the morning. You have to fill out affidavits to get in the building. You have to fill out special agreements with buildings. So the city is a bit of a difficult blend. In Westchester, you're pulling right up to people's homes. And depending on the person on what you're doing, we all wear masks. I don't care whether the homeowner is or isn't. We all wear masks. You know, if we're in the room by ourselves alone, we want to take the mask off, fine. But if somebody else is in the room, there's a mask on. You know, we're making sure we're sanitizing our hands at the end of the day, cleaning up doing extra things along the way, and making sure the products are there for the guys so that they go over and do their job. And, you know, just being cautious. We're watching the guys, making sure that nobody has a fever, no one's coughing, you know. So there's a bit to do, but it's not crazy here in Westchester, so it's good.
Okay, great. You know, Dave was, I don't know if you were on when Dave was sharing, but he was talking about, you know, prepping. You know, why does that matter? I understand, you know, contractors know.
Well, and anybody can roll a coat of paint on. That doesn't make it stick. That doesn't make it last. That doesn't make it look good. I know Dave was just talking about sheen levels. So depending on how much prep you do will depend on the sheen level that you can actually get away with. Because the higher the gloss, the more it's going to reflect back at you. So you're going to see more. So the higher the gloss, the additional prep has to be put in order to go over and get there. And you can get over, you know, you can get 100% gloss. But it's a very difficult product. It is not something for the faint of heart. It's not really a homeowner thing unless you're doing a small project. You know, as far as gloss preparation, prep goes over and gives you what's called a key. Like we were saying, Dave was saying, you have to have a dull surface. So sanding it is going to dull down the surface, but it's also going to create tiny invisible lines. And that's what the paint's going to grab to. And it's an absolute necessity. Now you can liquid sand as well. So if you're in an environment where you can't go over and make a huge amount of dust, they do make liquid sanders, and they do make them in waterborne products so that there's no real smell, but that will completely dull. It will clean the surface and create a great surface for the paint to grab onto. Then you want to use the correct primers. And today there's a real difference. People always like to interchange latex and acrylic because they're both water products, but they're very, very different. Scientifically, molecularly, they're so different, and one grips so much better. So, and that's acrylic. Acrylic is really where you want to go with things.
Right. Again, the importance of expertise. So Louis, tell me when someone's considering buying a contractor, not buying one.
Hiring a contractor, yeah.
I was going to buy you, but hiring a contractor, what are some of the tips that you would give people to think about, questions to ask? You know, what would be, let's say, your top 3 tips to give someone when looking to hire a contractor?
Well, obviously how long you're doing it, that you're a stable company, that you didn't start out 6 months ago and you know, through this financial crisis, and you're, you know, teetering on the edge. So you want somebody that you can look up online, see some of their pictures. You want to be able to go to other social media sites like this. There are, you know, websites on a lot of the different platforms for your local area, whether it be something like Scarsdale Moms or Hartsdale Families or whatever the place may be. Ask around the people that people know and have used. So it's really important. You want somebody that's known and has some sort of presence. You want to go over and see if they have recommendations or clients that you can call, and you want to make sure they're insured, so that when they come onto your property, that you know that you're protected. So those are, you know, some of the important things. And probably one of the most important things is when they come to your home, are you comfortable with them? Remember, they're going to be in your space. You need to be comfortable with them. If there's something that's freaking you out about the woman or the guy who comes to your home, follow that gut. All right. People are not, you know, people go over and they seem like a little, but they're not. People know when someone's in their home, whether they're comfortable or not. You know, is your pet comfortable with that person? You know, those are indicators of what kind of human being that you have in your house, because it is your home.
These are really good tips, and something I didn't even think about. Ask my dog.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, your dog knows. You know it yourself. You know when that dog knows something likes somebody, and if they don't like somebody, you know the reason why. So, you know, trust your animals. They don't lie.
Terrific.
They don't. That's not in their vocabulary.
I like it. Thank you so much. Laura, I want to turn to our design, our color expert. You know, you had shared with me a little bit about, that you have a 3-step color selection process, which sounds fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I actually have more than 3 steps.
Oh,
But
great.
here's the thing. You boys get to do all the technical stuff, but I get to do all the fun stuff. So
That's
the
true.
color is the fun stuff. And when you come to Wallauers, the ladies who work here and the guys behind the counter, we know what is going to look great in your space. And so we've played with these colors. We know these colors. We sleep in these colors. We dream in these colors. So we know what they're going to look like when they get to your house, most likely. So what happens is, first of all, at Wallauer, we have a color hotline. There is a phone number that if you are stuck and you just can't decide between color A and color B, you can call this phone number, and guess who it comes to? Me. I'm the color expert. So if you hear on the radio that there is a phone number to call for a color hotline, you'll be calling me. And I can help you with those quick, easy questions. What sheen should I paint my trim in? Or what sheen should I paint my bathroom in? Those easy, quick questions I can help you with. And also if you're trying to decide between, 2 different colors of blue, I'll tell you, this color of blue is more vibrant, and this color of blue has a more muted grayed undertone, which is more soothing. And those kind of things are what I can help people do. In addition to the color hotline, we also have the virtual color consultations, which during COVID, we were forced to figure it out, and we did. And we started doing these virtual color consultations, and huge success. I think it brings a lot of comfort to the client too. And when I'm in their house and she's walking around with her iPhone and she's showing me her old kitchen cabinets that are just so old, but she can't afford to do them all, redo it all. And I say, okay, why don't we paint these? And it makes things just come alive and look fresh and new without spending a fortune. So when people call me up and am I doing a color consultation with them here in the store or a virtual color consultation, I'm going to ask a ton of questions. I'm going to want to know, what is their goal? What is their inspiration? Have they been on Pinterest or Houzz, and have they seen magazine pictures? And have they, kind of been gravitating towards one specific look? If you start looking through magazines or through Pinterest and you keep pinning something over and over and over again, that tells me where we need to go with you. So there are, looking at images that are on the internet so that I can find out what you're attracted to so that I can help you achieve what it is that you want. I want to see where your windows are in your room. What kind of lighting you have in your room. Do you have hi-hats? Do you have chandeliers? Do you have sconces? I want to see what's going on with that. I want to know where their furniture is and what kind of artwork they might be putting on their walls, so that we could put a really great color which will accentuate the artwork or the furniture that they're going to be putting against that wall. Do you have exposed brick in your house that you want to work around? Do you have beautiful, gorgeous, moldings, crown moldings, stuff like that you want to really accentuate? That's what I'm going to help you do. The guys were talking about finishes. So once we start talking about colors, I'm not just going to throw you to the wolves and say, here, go get your colors. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on what sheen you're supposed to be using for your walls and your ceiling and your trim work and your bathrooms and your cabinets. Those are the kind of things that I'm going to be able to give you. Sometimes I give people a paint schedule, and we write down all the colors that we choose, the finishes, where they're going in the room, so that when they have that written down, they can just give that to their contractor, Lewis, and say,
Right.
Here you go. So that's a good thing. I'm just trying to get a feel for, do you want something soothing and zen-y, or do you want something coastal and farmhousey or traditional? Is this a paint job that you're doing for yourself, or are you thinking of doing a resale in a couple of years? Because if you want to paint your house today, you got to think, I'm selling my house in 2 years. they might not like lime green walls. And so you want to do what you can, thinking down the line so that that person makes a smart decision. And that's what I'm here for, to help you make that smart decision.
I love that you can take people's, like what you were saying, like farmhouse or Zenny, or because someone who is not a color consultant and knows that much about color,
Yeah.
that would be the way I would be able to describe it to you. So I think that's a really great thing for people to think about.
Once people start talking, I'll start picking up on little things, and you know what? They really need blue. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Colors are changing in the way people are putting them in their houses. You know, back in the 2000s, everybody painted gold and burgundy and green, and all the jewel tones were going. Every single room had a different color. And one of the things that has changed these days is people are looking for calm and comfort. They're looking for visual, uncluttered visual, so that when you're transitioning from room to room to room, you're not going from a burgundy room into a navy blue room. You might be using one great color on the whole first floor. That's what a lot of people are doing. The other thing too is, grays were the huge thing. They still are a huge thing, but I do see that trend starting to decline a little bit. People are starting to go more into beige. Beiges with gray undertones, not yellow undertones. It's giving you a very calm, monochromatic look. And then I'm coaching people on how to use accessories, pillows and rugs and drapes and window treatments that might have that pop of navy blue or a pop of teal, because teal is in again, believe it or not. It's not like the 80s teal that we all grew up with. It's very sophisticated. So some of the colors that are coming out these days and people are gravitating towards are smoky blues. Blues like the color that Benjamin Moore has called smoke. I asked somebody to paint their one of their rooms in their house that before COVID happened, and I actually went to her house the other day, and I walked into this beautiful sunroom that was painted smoke, and it was just lovely. Some of the other colors that we're really looking at is the color pale smoke or gray cashmere. Those have those bluey, smoky, gray down undertones that promote calmness and serenity when you walk in a room. Earthy greens are in, grayed out lavenders and purples, like the color Sanctuary by the Benjamin Moore Affinity Collection. That's a very popular one. And the other one that's really popular right now are those blushy colors. Blush, not like in pink, bubblegum pink, but blush like you just walk in and it's delicious. It's kind of like the background of my office here. It's not babyish. First Light is the Benjamin Moore color of the year right now. It is a very pronounced blushy pink, but there's my other color that I'm really growing towards right now.
Say that name of that paint again, because you said it fast.
Well, First Light is the Benjamin Moore color of the year, but I will tell you, my new favorite is called Winter Sky. You walk into a room and it is just so delicious. I love it, love it, love it. It's that palace pink, and even men like it. They don't feel like they're going into a girly room. And I will tell you, those blushy pinks look fantastic with richer colors like royal blues and aquas and greens. That's a very nice calming backdrop for people to, incorporate into their rooms. And the one thing too is all the rooms should flow together. And that's what I can help you do, is put that very calming palette together and make it personalized for you too. It doesn't have to be that everybody has to paint their house Revere Pewter, because that was the go-to color there for a while. And there are thousands of colors because there's thousands of personalities out there, and there is a perfect color for everybody. You might be a royal, green girl, just like what's in Lewis's backdrop. You know, those greens are in right now, and the navies are in, and the teals are in. So, you know, that's all the fun stuff that I'm working on.
Tell me, Laura, so if I come to Wallauer and I'm working with you, or I call the hotline, what's the process of working with you?
Well, first of all, I try to find out how big the project is going to be. Do you just need to do one room, or are you thinking you need to paint the whole entire house? That's going to determine if we can get this done, you know, in a 15-minute consultation, which we do here in the store. All of our designers are well versed in all the colors, and, you know, so any of the girls can help with picking out the perfect shade for you. If it's a bigger project where someone needs to do a whole entire house, we do offer in-home consultations. Right now during COVID, we're trying to limit that. And we are having a lot of success just doing the virtual color consultations right now.
Terrific, terrific. This has been incredible. I want to get to some questions. I have some questions coming in from our attendees I'd like to get to, if that's okay. Dave, you know, you were talking about moisture. So is there something that we need to consider with seasons and weather when planning a paint job?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, you know, the weather goes, you always want to make sure you're not going to be painting when it's when previous to rain or post to rain. You know, moisture is never a friend of paint. You know, another thing is, and Lou could speak to this also, you know, you never really want to paint directly in the sun. So you want to be aware of what, you know, where you're painting and what time of the day you're painting. So, you know, like I said, weather, you know, bad weather is never a friend of paint.
So these are some good questions for a contractor for sure. What about also, Louis, maybe one of you can answer this, because Louis has touched upon it a little bit, but the toxicity of paint, and how do you know what's safe for your family?
You know,
I mean, I think that's a pretty much a day, but I'll go on to that one. One of the ways, I do like to add one thing to Laura's, because they're great. First off, Wallauer is amazing. Second off, one of the things to look at your contractor, when Laura comes up with a color scheme, is your contractor willing to put samples up or make samples for you? Because I prefer making the samples so it can be moved around the room. And we always add 3 samples to every room. So if a person hires us, that's already included in the price. Are they going to try and hit you up for some extra money? Or are they going to go over and give you a hard time about picking up colors, samples, and making boards, and in the finishes that you want them in? So it's not just buying a little sample can, it's getting an actual quart of paint and making a real sample. Big time for them. As far as toxicity, if it's a waterborne product, more than likely it's going to be fine. Benjamin Moore is basically 0 VOCs on most of their products, or very low VOCs. Stay away from oil. I mean, oil is what has the highest toxicity. That's what's going to go over and be the worst for the environment. You know, epoxies are going to be, you know, bad. Like you can see in my virtual background right now, that green color, that's a kitchen cabinet we just sprayed. So you can see how high gloss really looks in an amazingly dramatic color. So, you know, toxicity wise, that's probably a more toxic paint, but you're going to get that finish. And on a whole, 0 VOCs is where you want to go, or very low VOCs.
Okay, good to know. Another question came in that this woman is closing on a new house soon, and both of her daughters want a pink theme in their rooms. One's 16 and the other's 8. She wants to know if she should do both rooms in the same shade of pink or choose 2 different shades. What do you think, Laura?
Well, as a mother of 2 daughters, I can tell you that the younger daughter is probably going to want something a little bit more vibrant than the daughter who is older. And if she wants this paint to go the distance, unless she wants to keep hiring Louis to come over and paint every 2 years, we're going to try and find a sophisticated pink that is going to go the distance for both of the girls. You don't have to be bubblegum in order to have a pink room. You don't have to be, and I'm dating myself here, you don't have to be Barney to have a purple room either. I've gone through it all with my girls. We had the raspberry walls, we had the lime green walls, we had turquoise walls, And now we've got gray. Yay. But I can help find the perfect pink for both of those girls. Come on in, bring the girls in. We have big Benjamin Moore chips that we can show you. Like Lewis said, testing these samples out is imperative, because the way it looks in my lighting here in the showroom and the way it's going to look in those girls' rooms are going to be completely different. So you need to test it out. And like Lewis said, you don't paint your sample on the wall. That's a big bad no-no. What you want to do is you want to put it on a board. That way you can move that board around to different places in the room depending on what your lighting is during the day, to get a really good read on what that color is going to end up looking like. And eventually, sometime at one point, you're just going to have to take the little leap of faith and trust that it's going to be gorgeous, and it will be.
That's great. And we will, just so everyone knows, everyone will get an email in 24 hours, and we'll have contact information so you can set up an appointment, you can reach out, you'll have a hotline number. You'll be in good standing. Dave, what about, another question is about like touch-ups and nicks when you're painting yourself, how do you fix something like that?
Touch-up and nicks is an interesting dilemma. Because certain paints are going to touch up better than others. Eggshell tends to build sheen. So the more layers you put on, the higher sheen until it tones itself down and fully cures. So if you have already 2 coats of an eggshell on the wall, more than likely after you do a spot priming of the touch-up, you're going to want to repaint the entire wall from corner to corner so that there's no flashing or a different sheen in the middle of a wall. Flats and mats typically touch up very easily, especially fresh ones. They'll touch up very easily. High glosses and satins, depending on the finishes, more than likely you may have to go from corner to corner if you're doing walls. If you're doing a piece of furniture or a door or a piece of baseboard, then you should be able to touch it up with no problem. The other thing is with the boards that we were talking about, the great thing about boards is if you're going to go out to the store and you want to look for fabrics, pillows or accessories, you now have a board of the exact color that's on your wall, and that goes right with you to the store.
With the wallpaper, right, Lewis?
Yeah, just like wallpaper. Wallpaper, you take a sample with you, you bring it to the store, and you can pick out all your accessories before.
Yep.
Because you know what's going on.
That's $1 million tip.
Yeah.
A little bit with the question, kind of similar to what I asked Dave, but Laura, why go to an independent store like Wallauer? What is that benefit? How does that benefit individuals?
If you want somebody who's really going to take great care of you, you come to Wallauer. The guys that work upstairs are top notch. And I will say, I think every single designer that's on our staff is excellent. They all have such a great sense of color. And, we do monthly trainings on everything so that, all the ladies are very up on, what all the new trends are. We talk about, sheens. It used to be years ago that people were doing, eggshell. That's not what they do anymore. They're doing matte finish on the walls because they don't want to see any imperfections. And then they're putting a higher gloss on their trim work so that you can have that contrast. We will coach you on everything. And everyone at Wallauer, we're family owned. We are a big team, a big family. We all are just here to help you make the best choices. Even if you are the DIYer and you want to, be the weekend warrior and paint that new home office, which used to be your walk-in closet, we'll help you make it right.
That's wonderful. This has been so incredible. I've been taking notes this entire time. It's been so beneficial. Now, when people reach out with Wallauer, now that you can do things online, you can do things with Zoom, can people reach out and work with you and hire you even if they're not in Westchester?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Great.
We have stores in Lower Westchester and Yonkers, so that we have plenty of people who are coming up from the Bronx who are buying paint at Wallauer. So that's not an issue whatsoever. And we are also in Rockland County. So, you know, we have a lot of clients that are calling for help, and they're going to the Nanuet store that's there. Great team of guys working over there too.
Terrific.
And let me tell you, if you're willing to pay my travel expenses, I mean, we've done work in Bar Harbor. I have a buddy of mine from England who literally travels the world for Begonia. He literally is in Dubai like once a month hanging paper. He's, you know, in Saudi Arabia another week. He's in Paris the next week. He's in New York the next week hanging for the company. So we're willing to go anywhere. You know,
Hey, Louis, if that guy needs a color consultation, I'll go too, okay?
I will let Simon know.
Okay, thank you.
The last time he was in New York, we had a great time together because he was staying in the city in Dugonier's apartment. But yeah, you know, we all travel, so you know, it's nice to be able to get out there, and we're willing to go just about anywhere. So,
and, you know, the other thing too is Westchester is a pretty darn big county. We have stores, we have Wallauer stores in every community just about. It is very easy to get to a Wallauer and get professional help. So,
yeah, if you're in Connecticut, you go right down into Portchester.
Absolutely.
It's right there. Because that's where we get our supplies,
yeah,
you know, for our painting projects. So we're, you know, you never know where we're going to be and what store we're going to be using. So.
Fantastic. So whether you decide to do it on your own or you decide to work with a contractor, you can really get expert opinion and never feel like you're alone, and know that you can get great advice, you know, whether it's a phone call or actually coming into one of the stores. And I just want to say thank you so much for this time with us. You've been this information is golden.
yeah.
And, you know, I want to say thank you also from on behalf of my attendees who are already giving messages. Thank yous. It's been great information. We will have a copy of this. This video will be on the Schneps Media YouTube channel in about 48 hours. So you can watch this again. You could share it with your friends. Thank you so much to our experts for spending this time with us and giving this jewels of knowledge. We truly appreciate your being here. Thank you again to Wallauer for sponsoring and bringing together this incredible group of individuals. And thank you for spending some of your afternoon with us. I wish you all to be safe and stay healthy and paint away.
Yeah. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Liz. We appreciate it.
My great pleasure.
David, Laura, it's always great seeing you guys.
Bye.